So let's face something that is actually very serious. Reno Omokri and some other supporters of APC, of the Tinubu administration, have been pushing this narrative for a while now. And they are saying that, in fact, they are not saying. They first of all will show you a video of people buying fuel very expensive in America. Like the first video of the lady who bought 17 gallon for $100. And then you have the other video of Reno Omokri who bought fuel or petrol for $81 for 12 gallon. $81 for 12 gallon, thereabout. When they show this video, what they do not tell you is plenty more than what they are telling you. So, why are they showing you those videos? They're trying to make you believe that, or make Nigerians believe that, the price of fuel, as high as it is in Nigeria, is justifiable. But here's the question, is it really justifiable? Let's look at the facts, not sentiments. This is not about whether you support Tinubu, you don't support Tinubu, you support Obi or you don't support Obi. This is not about that. This is about petrol and what should be the correct price of petrol in Nigeria. So in the two videos, the one for Reno Omokri and the one for Duru Bond, where they are buying fuel expensive in America. Yes, is it true that they really bought petrol for the price that they claim? The answer is yes. But there is something they are not telling Nigerians, which is very important. Where did they buy this petrol for the price they bought it? The answer to that is so important that it will change the way you view this discussion. Both Reno and the other lady, they bought their petrol in California. In fact, the price they are quoting is not even the most expensive in California. There are places in California where the price is even more expensive than what Reno Omokri or the other lady quoted. But here's what they are not telling you. You see, in America, there are 50 states. 50 states. Some of the states in America are bigger than Nigeria. Like California, for instance. California is bigger than Nigeria in land size. Texas is bigger than Nigeria in land size. In economy, they are way bigger than Nigeria. In fact, 5, 6, 7 times bigger than Nigeria, each of those states. Now, what Reno Omokri will not tell you is that California has the highest amount or the highest prices of petrol in America. California. Another thing Reno will not tell you is that in the same America, there are about 10 states where petrol prices are cheaper than in Nigeria, even with the Iran war ongoing. So while some Americans in California are complaining about a marginal increase in the price of petrol, something that Reno Omokri and co are using to push the narrative or the propaganda that, fuel or petrol is properly priced in Nigeria. There are other states in the same America where petrol sells cheaper. About 10 of them. I'll flash the picture on the screen. Now, these 10 states where the petrol is cheaper than in Nigeria, guess what? Some of them have oil. Some of them even don't have oil. But let's come back to the case of California and America as a whole. Why is it that the price of petrol in California is higher than the price of petrol in Nigeria? Why? Reno Omokri said, and some other of the supporters of the Tinubu administration have also said the same thing, that America has more oil than Nigeria. That is simply not true. America extracts more crude oil per day than Nigeria. Agreed. Agreed. But in terms of crude oil reserves, Nigeria has more crude oil reserves than America. But let's come back to the issue of the extraction. In a state like California, California also has crude oil. And this is important because we are looking at why petrol is not properly, justly priced in Nigeria. Even though they use the example of California, where prices are more expensive than in Nigeria. California extracts 350,000 barrels of crude oil every month, every day rather. Sometimes 400,000, but between 350,000 barrels to 400,000 barrels of crude oil per day. That's what California extracts. But guess what? What is the quantity of crude oil that California consumes on a daily basis? 1.8 million barrels. So where do they get the extra? Guess what? California imports over 70% of the crude oil it refines and consumes. Over 70%. Now, how does he import it? Note, and this is very important, California is considered one of the island states in terms of crude oil in America. Island state. What does that mean? It means that California does not connect to any other states in America with pipelines. So the 1.8 million barrels of crude oil that California refines and consumes daily must be transported to California through ships. So this significantly increases the price of crude oil. That's one. The price of shipping the imported crude oil, 70% of it. The second point is this. Even the 30%, which is about 350,000 barrels to 400,000 barrels per day, right? That they extract. Guess what? What is the cost of extracting 1 barrel of crude oil in California? Simple. About $70 per barrel. In comparison, in Saudi Arabia, the cost of extracting 1 barrel of crude oil is about $10. So, tell me, if the cost of extraction of 1 barrel of crude oil in Saudi Arabia is $10, and the price of extracting 1 barrel of crude oil in California is $70, would the prices be the same? The answer is no. Now, why is it more expensive to extract 1 barrel of crude oil in California? Simple. Shale oil, fracking. You see, naturally, if California or America were Nigeria, we simply say we don't have crude oil. Because the type of crude oil they have is not the normal type of crude oil. It's the crude oil that you need advanced technology to extract. The ones that are gummed to some rock, they will use advanced technology called fracking to extract them. So it is more expensive to extract the crude oil that California has. So because of that, the price will go up. Now the third reason, and this is very, very important. The third reason, most of the refineries in America were built for heavy crude oil. Heavy crude oil. You see, the shale oil and the crude oil that America extracts, mostly, they are light oil or light crude. So what does America do? America sells the light crude internationally and then import heavy crude to refine in their petrol, in their refineries. So because of this, guess what? They have to import the heavy crude at international prices. Now you can understand why America will invade Venezuela, capture Maduro from his bed in the morning, because they need access to that heavy crude from Venezuela. Guess where you have heavy crude in large quantity, apart from Venezuela, in the world? Iran. So now you see that possibly the war that the US and Israel are waging against Iran is not necessarily about nuclear weapons. If it was, in July of 2025, Donald Trump bombed their nuclear site. And Donald Trump then said, oh, we have destroyed their nuclear capabilities. So why bomb them now? Could it be because of heavy crude oil that America needs for their refineries? These are the three reasons. One, they import most of their crude oil. Two, the technology of extracting their crude oil is very expensive. Three, they need to import heavy oils for their refineries. So with these three reasons, you can understand why the price of petrol in California and some few states, about less than 10, are extremely expensive. But here is why it doesn't matter. You look at affordability. Because when they make these arguments, and I'm talking about the supporters of Tinubu now and the APC, they say, oh, Nigerians should not use minimum wage to measure. That is not about minimum wage. It's about the international price of crude. Well, international price of crude is a factor. But let's look at the affordability based on minimum wage. The minimum wage in California is very, very high. In fact, it gives you about $4,000 per month, which is about 6 million naira. Now, if a Nigerian earns 6 million naira a month, will he find it hard to buy fuel at 2,000 naira per liter? This is the fair question. Now, you can make your argument and say that, oh, it's international price, and use the example of America because it has crude oil. But why is it that people like Reno Omokri will not use the example of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iran, Libya? Why would they not use those examples? Because those are countries that also have crude oil. They extract and refine their crude oil for their own people. And those people sell way less than Nigeria sells. In fact, in Iran, with the war ongoing, the price has not changed. In Saudi Arabia, the price has not changed. It is only in UAE, in Dubai, that you have the price very minimally change. In other parts, Qatar, Kuwait, the price has not changed, even despite the war. Why can't we use or do whatever it is that these countries are doing? And we're not talking about subsidies. You are saying, oh, yes, we have Dangote refineries in Nigeria, but Dangote still imports fuel, crude oil, right? Because what it gets from NNPC is not enough. Now, the question is this. Nigeria extracts 1.6 million barrels of crude oil daily. 1.6 million barrels of crude oil daily. Dangote refinery only needs 650,000 barrels daily. And with that, he claims that he can refine all the petrol that Nigeria needs. What is stopping the APC? What is stopping Tinubu from guaranteeing 650,000 barrels of crude oil to Dangote? We were told that there is crude oil for Naira swap. Dangote says he's not getting it. In fact, after Donald Trump squeezed the blockers of Tinubu with the bombing of Sokoto in the name of fighting terrorists, we were told that the Naira for crude swap deal was put on hold because it simply does not favor America. Now, what stops Tinubu from doing the right thing in the interest of Nigeria? Why must he act in the interest of countries like America? What is it that America has against him that is stopping him from growing the balls and the spine to do what is right for Nigeria against all odds, like Donald Trump is doing for his country? What stops him? This is why we say that it is the fault of the Tinubu administration, it is the fault of the APC that prices of petrol are high. You say, oh, and that's the argument now, that Dangote refinery alone cannot take care of the petrol need of Nigerians. Okay. Dangote is planning to expand to over 1 million barrels per day refining capacity. What stops our refineries from working? You say it is old. Why can't our engineers overhaul it? If you are spending $20 billion like it was spent from 1999 till 2025 to rehabilitate, to overhaul the refineries, that all its total capacity is about 400,000 barrels. Why can't you use local engineers to do it? What is the big deal about a refinery? Isn't it about fractionating columns and pipes and additives to purify it, to blend it? What is it? This is why, if we are honest, two things must happen. We must remove the external factors, and the government have the capacity to do that. If you say Dangote has to pay for freight and shipping in dollars and has to pay international companies, the money is bleeding that way. What stops us from using our own companies? NNPC has a shipping company. So if NNPC belongs to Nigeria and its shipping company belongs to Nigeria and Dangote refinery belongs to Nigeria, even though it's a private entity, what stops government from implementing a policy to say, okay, the shipping of Dangote's crude will be done by NNPC's shipping company? At least NNPC was doing it during the DSDP arrangement, where they put it there conditionally that 50% of the crude that they export in the DSDP arrangement and 50% of the refined petrol product that they import into Nigeria must be done by NNPC's shipping company. So if they have the capacity to do that 50%, what is 650,000 barrels of crude that they cannot deliver to Dangote refinery, that you now give excuse and say Dangote has to use international shipping lines, and then that is what is responsible for the increase? The same thing with shipping. All of these things are based on very bad government policies that the Tinubu administration does not even need the National Assembly to take action on. He can do an executive order, and it will be in order to correct these things, to make the prices of petrol come down within affordable range for Nigerians. If Tinubu does the right thing, implements the right policy, Nigerians can buy petrol for 300, 400 naira per liter, and Nigeria will still be making a profit. Why is it that the Tinubu administration is implementing policies that is making life difficult for Nigerians? Why? These are the questions that we must answer, instead of just giving excuses for the government of the day. Like I said before, this is not about supporting or not supporting Tinubu or Peter Obi. No, it is about what is right for Nigeria. Somehow, I feel that because of one or two things that the international community has on Tinubu, things like his drugs-related case, things like his school certificate, university degree, those things are being used to manipulate the president into doing their bidding, doing the bidding of the US, of the CIA, despite Tinubu knowing that such policies are hurting Nigerians. This is why we must change the APC, if not for anything, because the APC has become very arrogant that they don't need the people. So we must remove them so that they will know that they need the people. Even though we know this is a big task, but it's not an impossible task. Free and fair election in Nigeria is possible with PU Marshal and votewatch.pro. Very, very possible if you volunteer. Now, if anybody sells you the narrative that the 2027 election, your votes do not count, it's simply not true. If your votes do not count, why are they giving you bags of rice? Why? Why? Your vote does count. And please, make it count. Join PU Marshal by visiting votewatch.pro to sign up. Let us make the 2027 election so free and fair that it cannot be rigged. This is our duty as Nigerians. We cannot leave it to INEC alone. We cannot. We must also band together to do our part. Thank you.